Hey, we're live. All three of us are here, I think. Be high.
We are here, Sid.
I am here.
It is the LGAHLPSN. Add a few more letters on the end of that. This week's show. And we are live here on a Saturday evening because we have nothing else better to do. And we're and because my wife's away for the weekend, and neither one of you is married, so we really have nothing to do today.
Sure we do. Right here doing it.
That's right. Wow, week one is over. It felt like a really long week. I don't know if it's just because of what we dealt with, but I'm sure some guys were wishing that the week hadn't finished yet because we got a few teams who have jumped out to a quick start in this one, and they are rolling right away. We've hit a couple of bumps, but we did that last year as well. So hopefully we get back to that. But let's get into week one, guys. And we were talking a little bit about that before the broadcast, and the idea was the getting to know you phase of the season. And again, starting last year in season one, and I think probably for all of us in that season, it was a matter of you got a bunch of guys on your team, and I know a couple, but there's a bunch I don't know, and how is that going to work out and such. Plenty of turnover this season because of guys going to the NHL and what have you. Plus, teams they changed, almost completely. It is a learning. It's an adjustment, Moran. Right? I mean, it's that way every season. It has to be.
Absolutely. We aren't us personally. We're not one of the teams that goes out and gets all of our friends that we've been playing with for years. We always like to get a new crop of guys in and, teach our style of play to them, so there's always growing pains in the beginning of the season. But we like to play as a team, and, which I'm sure a lot of these teams are. They didn't get off to the best start here, and, there's definitely growing pains getting the season going here, but it's to be expected. There's a lot of great talent out there, and it's just now's not the time to give up. You know what I mean? Especially if you had a rough start to the season. Now is definitely not the time to give up. Now is the time to get out the lunch pail, and go to work, and really get after, building that chemistry with your teammates and moving forward as a unit.
Well, how do you see that developing across the league? Because we still have several teams from last year that are sitting right up at the top again, and then a pretty good mix throughout the rest of the league. But I mean, you see Chicago sitting up there at 8-1 after week one again. Teams start off in different ways, and it's the teams, I guess, that can take the advantage of teams that take a little bit longer to gel.
Well,
I agree with that.
Yeah, we saw a bunch of teams jump out right away last year, right? I mean, and look, the end of the season in season one proves that I don't care if you're not a front runner the whole year. Look, Hartford proved that you don't have to be a front runner the whole season or even a good portion of it to win the whole damn thing. So, I mean, that's what always gives me hope in this league, because it doesn't really matter. Get yourself to the playoffs. From that point, anything can happen, I think.
Absolutely. You just gotta, stick with it. Keep pushing. Some of these teams also had, they had guys that were, under multi-year deals. So they do have some returning players, which is good to have. You got returning players coming in that are used to playing with each other. You got the same management. Yeah, absolutely. You got the same management group in place, which, may or may not help you. But, there's always going to be hurdles in every season, and if you ask me, there's still plenty of roster spots out there to be had. Guys are constantly jostling with their lineups, moving things around, seeing what does and what does not work. And, there's plenty of roster spots still to be had out there. And, guys got to just keep that in mind to, keep pushing, keep playing every day, and keep getting in touch with the general managers of your teams, and, just stay available. Things can change. But, it's definitely well on its way.
Well, you can already see that taking place a little bit. There's been a lot of trades this season, and that means managers are looking for people, general managers are. And, that's opportunity for training camp players to step in as well. There doesn't always have to be a trade there, but there's been a ton of them so far. So there's a lot of, to your point, a lot of space open on these teams for position openings and things kind of up for grabs to start the year.
Well, listen,
what was that?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
What did we actually come up with? How many? At one point, I think we counted them all, Sibs. How many trades did we actually count that have happened in week one?
In week one alone, well, we talked about how since April there have been 69 total trades, and week one accounts for 53 of them. So,
yeah, that's a lot of movement.
And I think Albany has half of those. But it's. I tell you what, and I was just thinking before the broadcast. I don't think, and again, Mike, you guys were GM and AGM last year. I don't think this season 2 is much different than season 1 because of all the extra players that are now showing up in the CHL. They get some time to play. They get a reputation. Now that pool is at least as good as it was last year, maybe better, because you get a chance to know if these guys can play because they're playing in the CHL.
Yeah, I think it's great. It gives people an opportunity to play games, competitive games that count, games that mean something.
Isn't that all we want?
Absolutely, that's all we want. I'm looking very much forward to next season already. Where I guarantee you, we're going to have the full allotment of CHL teams next season, and there's going to be a lot of people with places to play.
Slow down a little bit on next season. This is only week one.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, my countdown for a second.
So week one, back to that. What I see, there's a couple of teams sitting right at the top. The Gulls had a super strong week this week, going 6-2-1, getting points in 7 of their 9 games. There were a handful of teams, like I think 5 or 6 teams that got points in 7 of their first 9 games. But then the middle of the pack, teams probably 8 through 25 are all within a couple points of each other, a couple wins, couple losses here or there. There's a lot of 4-5, 3-6, 3-5-1, 3-4-1 teams here that, that just shows me that there's a lot of depth and competition across the league.
Well, I think, right away in week one, we've seen a few teams jump out immediately. And let's talk before we start talking about players. Let's talk about teams, because let's face it, that's in the end, that's the final goal. We have a couple of teams that have jumped out right away, and I don't know if Vihai or Moranicano want to talk about this first, but let's talk about a couple of the top teams who have jumped out there, the Wolves and the Americans. I mean, what they've done so far in week one.
I'll go to the Wolves immediately. I called them in our preseason show as they're a team that I see coming out and really putting on a show. They got a great team over there. It's kind of a bummer for them. They came out and ripped off, 8 wins in a row and then lost their 9th game. So that had to be extremely frustrating for them. But, they can't be too mad. They're 8-1. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, I just want to throw in a side note to the LGHL parent teams, the Edmonton Oilers went 9-0 in week 1. Pretty impressive to go undefeated in your first week of the season.
Absolutely. Also down in our, the Americans, they came out and finished the week super strong, ripping off 6 wins in a row, and they're right up there at the top of the Eastern Conference. And there's some great hockey being played by teams out there right now. It's, you got Portland, Hartford, and Providence sitting right at the top of the Eastern Atlantic Division, and in the Eastern North, you got Rochester sitting up top with the Ice Caps and the Crunch nipping right at their heels, and then you go over to the Western Central, you got Chicago right up there at the top. You got the Rockford Ice Hogs and the Manitoba Moose, who's another team that I thought would get off to a great start. And then in the Western Pacific, you got the Bakersfield Condors picking up where they left off last season, and San Diego right there as well. And the Ontario Reign nipping at their heels. So, I think it's super close all the way across the boards right now, and it's good to see. I just would like to see some of these teams at the bottom have a nice run next week and really get this, get it evenly spread throughout the league.
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit. We knew a few of these teams just by the players. We've gotten to know the players well enough at this point. I think that we felt that the Wolves would certainly be there. The Americans, I think, are even better than I realized they would be.
They kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
Well, but here's a quick stat on them.
Yeah.
They have a plus 68 shot differential. The Americans do.
Wow,
that's pretty good.
They're, if you look at some of the numbers on this on these teams, you look at some of the teams that are up high, and it's very much like like the NHL. Look at the power play percentage. The Wolves are over 39% on their power plays. The Americans, 31.5%. The goals are up there. They're at 33%. The Wolfpack are at 35. I mean, you're not going to see too many top teams who are not doing well be up there. The Moose are at 33, and they're about middle of the pack. Nobody's above really 23 in the second half of the pack. And so that, again, there are things within the team stats that you can look at that you could say, hey, this is one of the factors. It's not the only thing, but this is one of the factors.
Absolutely. Also, time on attack. How much do you have the puck in your opponent's end of the ice? How long do you have it over there? The goals are really playing the possession numbers well, as are the Americans and the Ice Hogs, and the Wolves are as well. It all comes down to how much you have the puck on your stick. And, good things happen when you have the puck in your opponent's zone, moving it around and looking for scoring opportunities.
Yeah, and another thing you see with these top teams, at least most of them, of course it doesn't hold true across the board because hockey is one of those games in momentum. So if you have one of those games that happens to be, an off chance game, could bring your numbers down a little bit, but most of those top teams also have a really high penalty kill percentage too. If you do take penalties, the ability to kill those off can be the difference between, sitting up at the top of your division or being bottom dwellers.
Yeah, look at the Pirates. Come on. They're killing 92, almost 93% of their penalties. Yeah. Yes, please sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would sign up for, if I could guarantee 85% at the end of the year, I'd sign up for that right now.
Yeah.
It's tough, it's a big part of this game, but you see teams that have a high penalty kill percentage. They also do have a high time on attack. And I think there's probably a correlation there as part of their killing penalties is the ability to hold the puck down in the opposing team's end while they're doing it.
Yeah, I absolutely. As a goaltender, I could, when you see the puck in your end and you don't see it getting across the other blue line that often, off, and that's when you start to say, okay, I'm going to be in for a busy night. And if you're working with a team, if you're working with a team that's keeping it over there, and if you get those occasions where you got to, they're down your end and you've got to make saves, it's fine as long as you don't feel like the ice is completely tilted and they're not getting past the red line. And that's when, and what you're talking about is exactly that.
Can you, as a goalie, kind of give any insight on maybe frustration when, whether it's necessarily in league games or just when you play, but as a goalie, it's got to be frustrating when you're killing a penalty and the puck doesn't get cleared. The other team makes an effort and keeps it in, or it just doesn't cross the blue line. Instead of dumping it down, a breakout pass goes wild and someone picked it off, and then power play 2-on-1's happening a lot in this game.
Yeah, and it's it is, and I see this in the league. I see this in club. I see it in drop-ins. Yeah, a defenseman gets the puck. We're down a man, so you know that there are more guys coming at you than there should be, and why a lot of times you get these guys who want to try and move it out of the zone on their own. Just flip the damn puck out of the zone. That's what I'm yelling at myself. Just flip the damn thing out of the zone already.
Right, ice it if you need to.
Yeah.
We do, on that note, just want to remind everybody, we do have a poll question posted to the threads on the main page of LGAHL about how week one went. What one word would describe your week one experience in the LG? Please go vote on that. We'll be talking about it a little bit throughout the show.
You want to talk about? You want to give the specific poll, or just have people?
We can see where it's sitting at right now.
Yeah,
I think we know how it's going to end, but go ahead.
The question is, how would you describe your week one experience in LG in one word? Has 4 votes at 33%. Humbling has 2 votes at 16.7%, and everybody's favorite, Fantastic, has 6 votes at 50%. So we've got votes trickling in here. More have picked up over the last few minutes since we started, but I think as the show goes on, we'll get a better gauge on how people are feeling.
So yeah, let's. I think, like I said, I think we know how this one's going to end, but it's fun. We're gonna do more of these every week, and try and pose next week's question as soon as possible. But yeah, I think it's a good way for you guys to voice your opinion. So we'll try and get some more detailed, serious ones for you to get to as well. But so. We talked about teams. I guess it's time to talk about some of the standout players who deserve some recognition this week. And I know you guys talked about wanting to start from the goal out with these players, but we'll do that for the 3 stars. I'd like to maybe start with with the regular line players, your offensemen, your defensemen. But let's I guess talk about offense, and we've seen a couple of big performers this week.
Oh man, I'm telling you, the
just a little.
The Ice Hogs have themselves a couple of fantastic lines over there. Jake Claus is killing it. He's got 19 points in 3 games. I mean, come on, somebody gonna stop this guy?
Did someone send the Ice Hogs a message about incorrect stat input here, or what's going on with that? 14 goals.
Yeah, it's insanity. He's a plus 15. He's averaging 6.3 points a game. Like, come on, this guy's
too.
on fire.
He's playing a physical game with 13 hits too. Jake Laws is.
Absolutely.
I do believe.
I don't know if Rhino's his line mate, or he's got to be. Like he's right up there too. With 16 points. But Yeep 93 from Texas, Thorpe Clan's boy over there, he's killing it. He's 3-0. He's got 17 points, 11 goals, 6 assists. He's averaging 5.7 points a game. He's a plus 4. These guys are off to great starts.
Yeah.
and it seems like a few of them are left wingers too. I see a lot of left wings that are high up in the offensive categories this week. Legends is another one playing for the Amherst. He's 3-0, 14 points, 9 goals, plus 10, almost 5 points a game. Like, come on, man. These guys are just lighting a lamp.
His line mates up there too, but if you look at that, it kind of looks like there might possibly be line mates together up on the top of this point scoring list. You got 2 from the Amherst with Legends and K1 and a bunch of other letters and numbers.
Well, just the
2 from the Pirates.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Ice Hogs. It looks like you get a line going like that for 3 games, and boom.
I look at the top 20. I look at the top 20 assist leaders, and 8 of them are right wingers. So, that could be some cross creasing going on there. I'm thinking.
You think?
No.
Oh, look who's at number 21. I didn't notice that before. Okay.
Right. Well, the goals seem to be spread out in that too. Good number of left wingers, but the J Claus is a center, and you would expect the center in this format to score a lot of goals, being in front of the net.
Well, I do believe in J Claus. So,
yeah, unfortunately,
that's a bad
real.
joke.
Yeah, he is.
It's a really bad. I was going to say yes, Virginia. There is a J Claus, but I think too many of these guys are too young to know what the hell that means.
We know.
He's got his face-off percentage right up at almost 70% too. So playing in 3 games, you're facing off at almost 70%. I mean, come on, man, that's very good. That's really hard to do, especially this year. In years past, it was very easy to do. You could really get your timing down in face-offs, but this year, I mean, it's very much a rock, scissors, papers game. You have to choose. You have to be on your toes at all times, watching what the other guy's doing and paying attention. You can't just sit there and win your backhand every single time. So it's very difficult at the center position this year.
You guys get exposed to a lot of these players a lot more than I do, but I'm looking at the top 25, and I'm only recognizing a couple of these guys that I've seen consistently, in the league or even online. So, I mean, am I wrong in seeing this? Am I seeing a lot of new faces that either maybe didn't get the chance last year or maybe sitting on TCs? I don't know. I guess we'd have to do a little more digging, but there seems to be a lot of names here I don't recognize.
Word, like I said the other day, word's spreading. Word is spreading, and people are coming to this league, and it's growing. And competition is going to do nothing but get better and better and better. And every season, there's going to be new guys right up there at the top of the lists, that you may or may not have heard of, and they're going to just come out of nowhere, and then bang, they're on the scene, and they're just tearing it up.
So
go
ahead.
I think you can see that in here, as far as expansion of this league and the amount of players that are coming in. That's why I think you see a lot of these new faces in the. I filtered it to the top 100, and there's definitely a lot of new faces in here that I don't remember seeing in the league last year, which goes to show how widespread talent is, and that there's new people coming in, and also speaks to there's going to be a new scoring champion in the AHL this year because Theos got called up, and I think that's probably the case with a lot of the top scorers from last year. So this list definitely looks a little bit different.
So let's, I know, Jonathan, I think you did a little bit of a breakdown of the defensemen. Let's talk a little bit about that because they tend to be unsung heroes. So.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of started looking at a couple of different statistical categories, and plus minus was one I looked at, but don't want to take to heart too much because you know how this game is and how momentum works, and there can be guys that score points as defensemen or have points scored while they're on the ice, but it's on a power play and it doesn't add to their plus or things of that nature. So when I look at the top 10 players in plus minus, 4 of those top 10 plus minus defensemen play for the Gulls. So I'm assuming 2 pair.
Yeah.
2 of their defensive pair are in the top 10 in plus minus, which really goes to show more how the team is playing, but also that the defensemen are a big part in that. You know, the fact that you have Killer Cookie is a plus 12 and Taste is a plus 11. Lefty and a right D. What that means is they're on the ice. They're getting pluses on the ice at full strength, and full strength scoring is the biggest part of this game. You know, when you talk about the real NHL, one of the biggest statistics to look at how scorers are in the league is points per 60 minutes. And some of the guys in the league that score the most points per 60 minutes are guys that you wouldn't necessarily think of, guys like Evander Kane and Kyle Okposo. So one of the most important parts of this game is full strength play, 5-on-5 play, and that's where you see a lot of these plus defenders coming in. I mean, the top 10 list is there's 3 guys at a plus 12. OSU Bucks 84 for the Ice Hogs, Killer Cookie 993 at 12 for the Gulls, Sparty for Life 7, he's at 12 for the Amerks, and you can see they're just in the top 3. And as I finish this top 10, same as the teams that are at the top of the league in the standings. Taste and Master V277 are both for the Gulls at 11. You have a pair from the Portland Pirates, both at 11. Howley and Salucci. And I see a lot of continuity in this list of defensemen here. Mike, what are you seeing with the defensemen across the league? Are you seeing systems that are being played that are creating successful defensive play, or are you seeing just straight up talent that's making the difference?
I see partnerships. I see guys that count on each other and know where each other's going to be at all times. You know, that's the most important thing you could ever ask for as a defenseman. You know, I used to play a lot of defense years ago, and, you know, you're only as good as your defensive partner, you know, and if you got a couple of guys that just, you know, they breathe together, you know, the way that they operate on the ice as a pair, as a unit is art, you know, if you ask me. You know, they can just, they know where each other's going to be at all points, you know, which is, I mean, you have to have that in your defensive pairs, you know, to get out of the zone safely, just to break out, you know. You have to have that continuity, and you have to have that pair, you know, to succeed in any league.
I was just going to say, this might be a really simplistic way of mentioning it, but as a goaltender, again, if I see the defensemen working together within our zone, passing the puck back and forth to each other to get out, when I see that happening with a pair, that gives me a lot of relief, because, again, it's very much a thing we see in the NHL. But when I see that, when I see you know, they go behind the net with their passes to each other, they're going across cross ice when they need to get it out. To me, if you see a pair doing that, those guys are going to be successful.
Well, having a defensive pair that, for the most part, moves on the ice like they've got a 15-foot rope tied around their waist.
Yeah.
One moves left and the other fills that spot.
We talk about that all the time. You know, it's almost mirroring your defensive partner. You know, always basically, there's an invisible rope tied to their waist, and, you know, you're constantly keeping tension on that rope, you know, and you know, just keeping right with each other, knowing where each other's at on the ice is huge, you know, and knowing where your partner is going to go. You know, if they see a certain thing, you know, your D-to-D pass is blocked up across the middle, you know, the one guy who has the puck knows, okay, it's blocked across the middle. I know he's charging to the corner. I'm going to send it around the boards to him, the safe play, and get it up and out that way. These guys working together as pairs is so huge. I mean, you look at the plus minus, and for the defenseman, and you see exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you see pairs of defensemen all up and down this thing, guys working together as a unit. You know, it's continuity is huge.
and those pairs of defensemen being on the league's most successful teams so far. And one of the things as a forward, what I see, like one of the best things that I can hope for in this game is that if I'm carrying the puck up the ice and something gets closed off, I don't need to force that puck to my center or my left winger playing right wing. I can slow it down and send it back to my defenseman and reset the play. And having a defensive pair that you can count on to do that it can make all the difference in the world in the confidence of the team on the ice.
100%. You're only as good as your defense and goalie. That's where it starts. You hear people talk about all the time building their team from the net out, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. You gotta have solidity on the back end of your team, and if you don't, you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna struggle mightily.
Hey Sibs, what's your weigh in on this a little bit with defensive pairs and kind of what you see as a goaltender, because the defensive pair in front of you is probably the biggest thing in the game to help keep you as a successful netminder.
Well, it's a really good question. There are a couple of things. Well, first of all, before anything else, there's got to be communication with the goaltender and the defense, and a big part of that is, what do we do on 2-on-1s? What do we do on odd man? There are guys rushing in. There's somebody on the other side. How do you deal with these situations? Whatever the situation is, how do you deal with it? And if the defensemen that you're talking to are open to that, or even better, if they say, hey, in this situation, I'm going to do this, you do that. When you get guys, especially in pairs, who work together and work with the goaltender to say, here's a situation we're going to be in, here's what I'd like to do when that happens. When you get that kind of communication with them, then you know that their play is going to reflect that, and you're not worried about that. I think when guys have the game down to that kind of level where they are able to tell you what they want to do and what they expect you to do, then those are good players. I'm not worried about how they're going to play the game, and because they communicate well, that gives me a lot of confidence. And then because as a goaltender, and a lot of G's will tell you that. Am I hugging the post? Am I not hugging the post? I have that issue. That's one of my weak spots. I hate to say that on the on the show.
Don't say it live.
But a lot of goaltenders do that. They want to anticipate that cross crease pass because they feel like they need to be there. Well, you know what? That's one of the toughest saves to make, and guys like John LOL can do it every freaking time, but I'm not as good as he is. So I need to be able to say, I could take this. I might get there for that, but I'm counting on you to get that. And if they believe in that, and they totally understand it and get it, then those are the guys I know I'm going to work well with.
Well, it's the year of the one-timer, right? The game has shifted this year to the one-timer. That's what it is. And I've seen that a lot for the goalies, to have a defensive pair that has the ability to have a guy pressuring the puck and the other guy who's got that back door, keeping that pass from getting across. That's huge. That is this year. That's how a majority of the goals have been scored, and to the point where people are forcing the one-timer because it's so successful if you can get it by the defenseman.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. It's forcing that one-timer is, absolutely what people look for. And, as a defensive pair, like you were saying, Sibs, if you can count on your defenseman taking that pass away, then you can focus on your angle, and that really must come in handy when you can trust your defenseman like that.
Shrinks the net.
Hey, before we get into the discussion of goaltenders next, because we're chugging away here, we're well over a half hour here. A couple of questions have come into the YouTube channel, and I want to get to them just so we could talk about them right now. Hungry Hockey, who sent the first message into us, so he He thankfully is the first guy who's done it. It says,
shout out to the first one ever.
yeah,
There
who
you
do you
go.
guys have as the top 5 teams in the league? And we may have talked about it, but let's just recap it and tell everybody what you think. So I'll start with Vihai. You tell us who your top 5 are.
Well, it's got to be. You have to include the Wolves, Ice Hogs, Gulls, Americans, and I'm going to have to say probably the Pirates. I think they're surprising a lot of people. They've been really solid this year. But I would have to say that the top 5 is going to be for this week the Gulls, Wolves, Ice Hogs, Americans, and Pirates. I just don't see it any other way right now. They're all playing so well.
I'm, just to rank them, I'm absolutely going Wolves number 1. Vibes is my boy. I have a lot of confidence in him as a GM. Same with Jim or JLM. I think they got a great team over there again this year, and they're going to really just continue to pour it on. Number 2, I got to go Ice Hogs. They just have some serious firepower over there, and it's just we stream all our games, and we watch them play us in a game earlier in the week, and boy, they moved the puck well.
They destroyed us. They played extremely well.
They move the puck. They play defense. They score. They're a great team. They're absolutely. I mean, they're almost the Wolves are almost a 1A, and the Ice Hogs are a 1B for me because they're so talented, and they're just already in mid-season form in week 1. And the Amherst, the Amherst came on, they really started to play well down the stretch there in the end of the week and ripped off 6 wins in a row. I myself didn't see that coming, to be honest. But Abdil is a good goalie over there, and I got to give a shout out to him because he's a good friend of mine as well. And that team's they're playing really well right now. So I'd have to say they're in my 3rd spot, right next to the Pirates. Pirates are playing great, but for me, I'm gonna go Wolves, Ice Hogs, Amherst, and then I'm gonna throw in the Pirates, followed by the Gulls. Condors are great too, but it's just a tough question to answer for me. There's so many good teams right now.
It's early too.
It's super early as well, but I'm loving the way that it's opening up here, and I like watching these teams play.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you what were your top 5?
All right, so I at number 5 because I can't forget them because I think they obviously played incredibly well last year, and I think they have another good team this year is the Wolfpack. I have them at number 5. Don't ever forget them because they'll be there. And they have a good solid team up and down. The Gulls obviously initially are showing guys who are playing great defense, and that's always a plus for me. So I put them in number 4. Let's see. I would say the Ice Hogs number 3. Again, like you said, they're blowing up, and I think they have a tremendous team and could very well win this whole thing. But I'm putting them at 3 right now. Number 2, and JLM's going to shoot me for saying this, but I'm putting the Wolves at number 2. They are, and Vibes actually sent me a nice nasty gram when this is over. They are good, and they are an incredibly talented team, and like you said, Vibes. And JLM have done a good job scouting in the offseason. They have put together a very solid team. But I don't know what it is about the Americans, but I really do like their team up and down. I think they're just very solid, and they play good D, and I think that they're just an incredibly strong team up and down the roster, and I like them a lot right now. I think they're my number 1 team.
They've got 2 incredible goalies.
Yeah, absolutely, and that alone, can carry you a long way. Again, this is drawing some parallels to the NHL. I think great defense and great goaltending can help you out a lot, and you only need to put a couple in the back of the net to win some of these games if you have that good of a defense.
Yeah, I want to shoot right back over, not to bounce all around on you here, but to go to the Wolves, there is one guy that I do want to point out, because it's not flashy. It's not all the points. It's not all the plus minus.
Mm-hmm.
It's steady defenseman hockey, and it's McLean, 16. The guy's got 17 hits. He's got 0 penalty minutes. He is only just a plus. He is just a +3, but he's got 1 goal and 2 assists, but he's 3-0. That's one thing that I look at a lot when I look at defensemen, is how many hits is this guy getting, and is he taking penalties, So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him. He's looking like he's a straight lockdown defenseman over there in Chicago.
Yeah. And just a quick thing to shout out to the rest of the media team here. Vibes will be doing a power ranking every week that you guys can check out as well. So there's going to be written format as well with the stuff that we're discussing on here.
Right. So let's bounce over to the goaltenders, because we're we are taking forever to get through some of this stuff. But there's so much going on. It's hard not to do that.
A lot of people to shout out to.
Yeah, and if you look at the power rankings, of course you've got your top 3 as Gauthier 26, Big Lammers, and Luigi plays base. And again, a couple of names in there that I'm not overly familiar with, but have played well. Schneider 24, who to me is one of the top goalies in the league without question, is at number 4. And one of the guys I wanted to talk about also in this list is Dustin 666, who I was watching the bidding, and I think it took a little bit of time before somebody picked him up, and I remember thinking, I'm kind of surprised, because I've seen the guy play. He's deep into this league, obviously very involved with LG, and is was a solid goalie last year, and he's played so well this year that yesterday he was sent up to Edmonton to be on an Edmonton team that's already undefeated. So they're just getting better. I want to give him a shout out because, again, another guy that I've seen play who is a very consistent. What you're going to get out of him in net. And he, he's the kind of goaltender you do want to build a team around. And I think the Condors did very well in picking him up. Unfortunately, now they've lost him, so we'll see where the team goes with their goaltending situation. But I wanted to give him a shout out because I thought he has played exceptionally well in this league period, and certainly this season's gotten off to a 3-1 start, 2.5 goals against, and so you can't argue with that kind of success.
Look right below him on that list, on that top 10 who's hot goalies. It's their other goalie, Trash Clown 22. Right.
And so
he's got 2 solid goalies on there,
And probably the reason why you can't afford to to lose him if somebody like that can step right in. Navzi, obviously for the Wolves at 5-1. Balea at 3-1. We've got some good goaltenders up and down the board on this one. Have had a lot of success with San Jose. For the Americans, 5-0,
undefeated,
2.55.
That's the other Amerks goalie I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And so, some good performances already put in at the goaltender position. I'm not one of them yet, but I'm getting there. And so these, to me, I would bet you anything if you talk to most of these goaltenders, they probably would tell you some of the stuff I just told you before that Jonathan asked about. How's your defense? How are these guys? And they would probably have glowing recommendations for them about how they work with the defensemen, how the defensemen work together. There's always these common denominators that come through, and I'd like to talk to some of these guys along the way, and hopefully we'll get some of their thoughts with some of these interviews down the road. But again, these guys have jumped out to a big start because their teams play well as a whole and play good defense.
Mm-hmm. I do have one more quick question for you on the goalies. Belaya is 3-1, but he's got a 1.63 goals against and an 85.7 save percentage.
Yeah.
How tough is that to do in this league, Sibs?
Oh, Jesus. I think that's incredibly tough to do. You know, if you look at, let's see, total shots, he's got 49 shots in 4 games, right? So you're talking about 12 shots, a little more than 12 shots per game. That might be a little bit on the low end, but still, you know, if you're giving up less than 2 goals in 12 shots, your team is going to win every time. And it's incredibly tough because even at that, look, we've seen lesser, you know, we've seen 10 shots on goal and goaltenders giving up 5 because, you know, maybe not a lot of great shots got through, but, you know, you get the 2-on-1s that happen. Obviously, that's not happening for him in his games, and he's playing well, but he's getting good defense as well. I got to believe that. You know, if you look at Devin Daggs, right? 5 games, 73 shots on goal, and he's at a 1.83 with a shutout already this season. Again, incredibly tough to do because, you know, you have to get everything working well. You have to have the defenseman stopping a lot of things. There's got to be a little bit of luck involved in it for any goaltender, but you know, some of the better games I've played are when the defense blocks 6 shots. You know, that's 6 more that didn't come through, with at least probably a third of them would have been good opportunities. So yeah, it's all everything working well.
Those 6 shots sure don't count, though, do they? I swear that the blocked shots statistic on this game is broken this year. Every time, you know, I play center, as some may or may not know, and you know I block. You know, it says I have, like, you know, I don't even know, some ridiculously low number of block shots.
40 or 50 block shots in 600 games.
Yeah, it's totally broken this year, but I just, you know, I find that funny. But yeah, it's very important to block shots, and it's also very important in this game. I mean, yeah, you're not actually in the net looking for the puck. You know, you can see the puck coming at you, but in this game, the way it's designed, you know, is, you know, those block shots are huge, but also, you know, the lanes, the shooting lanes, keeping the shooting lanes open for your goaltender to be able to see the puck is huge too.
Yeah, if you can't block it fully, get out of the way.
Right.
Let's stay with goalies here, and let's talk about the 3 stars of the week for each section of positions here.
All right, so for goalie, we're gonna start at net with this, and then do a D and an offenseman for our 3 stars. You know, I think, you know, obviously we just got done talking about it, but because of the amount of work that he's had to do, and the fact that he's had 73 shots on and has done really well with Albany, I want to give it to Devin Daggs this week, just because you know, he's had a lot of work and yet has managed a shutout and keeping it sub 2 on his goals against. So, you know, there are a couple of other guys, Matt Bielski, who's had a rough start but had a shutout. You know, he's not playing bad. Schneider, who we mentioned, and Abdil, who we talked about, who's played pretty well so far. But I would say there are a lot of guys who've done well this week, but I would want to give it to Devin Daggs, because I think in the games that he's played, he's had to do a little more work and has managed to put together a 3-2 record at 1.83 at goals against, and I think that's a pretty good accomplishment. So we move on to defense. Who's your star, Vi?
Well, you know, when you look at different statistical categories throughout the week, I would say the one name that continuously pops up would be Stivvy66 from the goals. The guy was a plus, where the heck did it go? +9 this week. Yep, he was a +9 this week, and he had 10 points. He's leading the league in goals for defensemen after 1 week. He's got 2 goals and he has 8 assists. But he's obviously producing for his team. He's, the goals have what looks to be, at least through week one, the deepest defensive core in the league right now. And it looks like he probably stands up above them just a little bit in that group. And he's pretty impressive. And another name that continuously came up for another defensive star here was OSU Bucks 84 from the Ice Hogs. He's tied for first in plus minus for defensemen at 12. He's a plus 12. And as you know, in this game, being a plus 12 as a defenseman that's pretty impressive in 3 games. I would love to be a plus 12 as a forward right now. But those 2 names definitely came up a lot. And for the third one, it's kind of tough because there are so many good defensemen in this league. I'm looking here, and there are so many defensemen on this list that went 3-0 this week with their team. And as a subset to the 9-game week for a team, 3 games for each player, winning all 3 of your games is huge.
Right.
That's 33% of the games, but you're winning 100% of the games that you have the ability to have an impact on.
Right.
So I would say that Howard, for the Pirates, he was a plus 11. He had 5 points, and he, from what I can see, he's part of a solid defensive pair over there in Portland. And that's just another thing here, seeing pairs on the top defense of the week. Those are probably the 3 that I would give it to. What about what are you seeing for forwards there, Mike? I mean, I think I can tell who's going to be the first the first star of the week.
Well, my number 3 star of the week is, he didn't win all of his games. He went 2-0-1, but he did score 17 points, 10 of which were goals. He's averaging 5.7 points a game. He is a plus 6. I'm going with the right winger up there in Portland, man. Cup for Blues. I just think he had a really good week. Portland played a great week of hockey. They came out as, tops in the Eastern Conference, right up there at the top. And, I think he had a great week. It's tough for me on my second star. I'm really torn between a couple of different players, but I'm going to go with Legends. Legends, he did only have 14 points, but I mean, only 14 points. Come on, 14 points in 3 games. Still pretty damn good. He's averaging 4.7 a game. He is a plus 10, which is huge. And Rochester's just playing some great hockey. I think they're really getting it done over there. And, it's going to be fun to watch that team really start to gel and start to take off here. Honorable mention out there to Rhino and Yeep as well, who had great weeks. But, my number 1 star for sure, Jay Claus is real, ladies and gentlemen. This guy is playing some hockey. He has 19 points in 3 games. He's a plus 15. He's got 14 goals. 6.3 points a game. I mean, come on, and on top of all those stats, he's sitting right up there at the top with 69.5% in the face-off dot, which is really tough to do. He's just killing it. The Ice Hogs are moving the puck lightning fast. They're playing great defense. They're scoring goals. They're lighting people up. I think they're going to be a very, very tough team to contend with over there in the Western Conference. My first star of the week is going to Jay Claus.
When do we play them again? I'm not available that day.
I don't know.
I'm definitely not available.
I hear you there.
Oh, jeez. Hey, one other question from Dave Herman came in on the YouTube channel. What team do you guys believe will bounce back from a slow week 1 start? I mean, besides the obvious for us. But what other team would you
I know
think?
what team I hope will bounce back.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Jonathan.
Okay. Well, when I'm looking here at different things throughout the league, and you see guys sitting at the bottom, and sitting at the bottom after week one is nothing to be upset about in the long term. You know, it's very angering when it happens, but after a surprising end of the season last year, I would say the Utica Comets are going to bounce back. They didn't have an incredible showing in week one, and it's still a team that I have some confidence in. I think they do a good job over there, and I think they're going to get it together.
I know who I'm going with. I mean, it's not like they really had the worst start in week one. You know, they did finish 500. I mean, 4-5 with the overtime loss. But they did finish the first week 4-4-1. But I got to go back to the reigning AHL equivalent Vezina Trophy winning Rampage. I got to go with Mooner. He is a great goaltender in this league, and you gotta have good goaltending to win. And I know he's made some moves recently to adjust his team and make some adjustments in areas that he felt that they needed a little help. But I gotta go with the San Antonio Rampage and Mooner to come back and really have a strong week too.
I think the one of the teams I was looking at that I thought was interesting because they have some fairly decent numbers, but are right now at 3-5-1 in the West is the Milwaukee Admirals. They've done okay, at this point on power play, but they've got some decent players there. I think in the end, they're going to be a better team in the long run. Their penalty killing is about 84. They just need a lot more time on attack. It's not bad, but it's not great, and so I think they have the players to pull that off. I'd also like the Falcons as well. Again, I think they are. They've done pretty well on the power play, and they have some decent players on there that can get them back on track as well. Rixer, who I know well, I play with him a lot. He's a good player. Voltage Fusion on that team, Ranchers on that team. Some good guys in that squad, and I think despite the fact that they've struggled a little bit getting out, I think they have enough players. They have enough quality to get there. Right now at 3-4 with 2 overtime losses. Their record could be very different right now. I think they are also a team that will bounce back a little more as well.
Yeah, I say keep your nose to the grindstone. Keep pushing forward. Now is not the time to give up, like we said in the beginning of the show. Now's the time to get your lunch pails ready and get out there and get to work.
Get to work.
There's plenty of roster spots to be had. Teams and GMs are constantly adjusting, so get out there, play some games with your GM, and get yourself a roster spot, earn yourself a roster spot, and start to gel as a team. There's a lot of teams out there that did have a rough start, but I know they're going to bounce back, and this season is underway, and I'm very much looking forward to week 2 and continuing on down the road.
Yeah, I'm happy. It was a tough week with the Hershey Bears, but overall this league is expanding at a rapid pace, and it's very, very exciting to be a part of. And all I can say is, if you had a tough week this week, there's still 8 weeks left to be had. And as we saw last year, you put yourself in a hole starting off with a struggle, but it can be dug out of. The season is not over. There are 30 teams still capable of making it into the tournament at the end of the year. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
All right. Well, I think we've tortured people enough for the past hour. And we had a few other things we wanted to talk about, but I think we'll wrap it up here, and we'll try and get to some of them next week. Again, where are we with the poll, Jonathan? Right now, do you have any numbers?
So, yeah. Actually, I pulled it up a minute ago. So the final numbers on the poll, with how would you describe your week 1 experience in LG in one word? And humbling. Both at 25%, and of course, fantastic at 50% led the way in the voting.
That's what I'm talking about. That is fantastic.
Yes, it went fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this and sending in questions to ask us. We're going to try and do this more on a regular basis as far as the live broadcast if possible. So any kind of feedback, we'd love to make it more interactive.
And don't forget to link your games on the website to Twitch. Link your Twitch account. There is a thread right here on the main LGAHL page that says Twitch streaming support. Link your games to the site and get your stuff out there.
Yeah, there were 135 games this week, and 56 of them made it up onto the site as a stream. That's a little less than half. It's a decent number, but I know that many more games were actually streamed and just didn't make it to the site. So link those up so we can watch the games, get this league a little bit more exposure.
All right, I'm done talking. Let's get on the damn game and start playing. I haven't played it all today.
Yes, sir. See you guys next week.
All right, thanks. V High and Marinaconda. I'm T Sips. We'll talk to you guys next week.